Auto sequence start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What up, what up? What's up? What up? What's up, folks? How y'all doing? Howdy. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy Festivus. Whatever, holiday you celebrate. Happy holiday. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend, and I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. And I hope you spent it with your loved ones, in peace, and had great food and everything. So, anyway, y'all know me. Every time I come up here is because I want to talk about something very important. And today's subject is vitamin D. Yes, that D. Vitamin D. So why vitamin D? Well, vitamin D is an extremely important vitamin for our function, for our immune system, for our skeletal homeostasis, and for many other reasons. But before I dig into the subject, I want to show you guys. Today I'm rocking my obituary t-shirt. You know me, I'm a metalhead. Well, most of you guys know I'm a metalhead. So I love metal, rock, whatever. I'm a metalhead. So each video you're going to see me rocking different metal rock bands. So anyway, so yes, I want to talk about vitamin D because it's such an important subject, and a lot of people are not well informed about it. And I want to give you guys a background, a general background or a historical background of what's vitamin D, its origins, its functions, who discovered it, and why it's called vitamin D. So, vitamin D, it's not a vitamin. Vitamin D, I know a lot of people, it's called vitamin D, but it's not a vitamin. Vitamin D is a hormone. It's a modulator hormone. And that hormone is produced by our kidneys and our skin. So our kidneys produce the inactive form of vitamin D, which is called 7-dehydrocholesterol. Yeah, dehydrocholesterol. 7-dehydrocholesterol is the inactive form of vitamin D. And when vitamin D gets activated by UV lights, UV rays, or sunlight, it's called, well, before I get into this, there are different types of vitamin D. So there's vitamin D2, and vitamin D2, and then vitamin D3. So vitamin D2, it's called ergocalciferol. Ergocalciferol. It's gonna be a little hard. It's gonna be like a tongue twister type thing. So ergocalciferol is vitamin D2, is the scientific name for vitamin D2, and it's found in plants, especially wild mushrooms. So yeah, our bodies don't make vitamin D2, so we need to obtain it through foods, through wild mushrooms or fortified foods like milk, cereals, and stuff like that. But that comes from plants. That vitamin D2, ergocalciferol, comes from plants. Then we have vitamin D3, which is called cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol, vitamin D3. So that vitamin D3 comes from either animal sources like liver, fish oil, fatty fish, egg yolks, and our skin. Yes. So our skin has the inactive form, which is 7-dehydrocholesteral, dehydrocalciferol. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna rewind that, and I'm probably gonna edit. Anyway, I'll go back and fix that. Anyway, our inactive form of vitamin D3, we have it in our skin. Our skin cells have that, and it gets activated with sunlight, with UV rays. So once the sunlight hits our skin, it becomes into vitamin D3, or the active form, which is called cholecalciferol. So that is where vitamin D3 is formed and is born in our kidneys, and then our kidneys release the inactive form, and it's all over our body. And of course, we have receptors, and all over our cells, and our skin. So that's why they call it a sunlight vitamin. And so I wanted to let you guys know about that. Vitamin D is not vitamin D; it's a hormone. And why it's called vitamin D? Okay, so researchers, scientists, chemists, doctors, the people that were doing the research and investigating. And excuse me, my bra is like bugging me. I'm like, ah. So the scientists that were researching and studying vitamin D, its organic chemical compound, they named these factors, they call them factors, by order. So vitamin D, it was A, B, C, D. So what's the third one that they found? So the first factor they found out, or during the research, it was vitamin A. So vitamin A, a lot of people call it, know it as retinol or retin A. It's very important for our eyesight, for our skin. It has many other functions. But vitamin A was the first one, or the first factor that was discovered. So that's why they call it vitamin A, because it's factor A. So they discover vitamin A, B, C, and D. So we have the fat-soluble vitamins, and then we have the water-soluble vitamins. So vitamin A, vitamin D are fat-soluble, and vitamin B's and vitamin C are water-soluble. So when they found out about vitamin A, they call it vitamin A. When they found out about all the complex B's and vitamin B's, they call them vitamin B's because they were called factor B. And then vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid, it was the third one that was found, and they call it factor C. But later they gave it the name, they made it kind of easier for everybody to understand. They gave it the name vitamin. So now you know why vitamin D is called vitamin D, because it was the third vitamin that was discovered, and it was called factor D. So hence vitamin D. So all the factors, so vitamins are called or named after factors, because they're factors. So factor A, B, C, D. So now you know why vitamin D is called D, because its original name is factor D. And of course, because vitamin D is a hormone, it's a zoosterol. It's a sterol, or a type of it's a modified steroid, which is made of lipid. It's made of fat waxy, like waxy, like type of substance. So it's a fat soluble type of steroid. So now you know where vitamin D comes from and why it's called vitamin D. And now I'm going to dig into its origins and who discovered it. Excuse me, who talked about it. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my voice. I have something in my throat. It's like dry. So anyway, now I want to talk about who discovered vitamin D, who worked on it, the scientists that were the culprit of the discovery of this amazing hormone. also called vitamin D, and then I'm going to talk about the functions of vitamin D in our health, in our system. So, I mean, vitamin D, it's a hormone or a vitamin that it was not studied, like its chemical, organic chemical structure wasn't found until the early 1900s. But way back in the day, like in the, I mean, the vitamin D, it's being known and studied from, I would say, originally from the 500 before Christ, like 500s time. Way, it was named, it was talked about by super old school physicians and philosophers and scientists. They didn't know the, like I said, the chemical structure, but they knew that there was a substance in our bodies that was in charge of our health. And what many scientists, like old school scientists, realized is like when people were outside, in the fresh air and receiving sunlight, sunbathing, people will feel better, and people were healthy. And they noticed when people were not exposed to sunlight and didn't eat certain foods, they started to get sick, started developing all kinds of weird infections and diseases, and especially children developed skeletal or bone diseases and issues. So they realized, okay, there's a correlation between sunlight and fresh air and health. So in many works, I mean, there's so many scientists, like old school scientists, that talked about vitamin D. They didn't call it vitamin D because they didn't know it was vitamin D, but they call it like the sunlight, or the outside substance or medicine that help, our bodies to stay healthy. So there's documentation that goes way back in the 500 years before Christ, and then in the late 1500s, there was a British physician. His name is Francis Blisson, was born, and in 1650, he actually was the first physician scientist that legitimately studied the liver. He was an anatomy lover. He was like everything anatomy. So he studied the liver, and he wrote the first medical work about children's rickets, which is it's a bone disease that develops in childhood. It develops in kids that are deficient in vitamin D. So he was like the first one that actually legitimately recorded and documented work about vitamin D deficiencies and rickets in the liver. So we gotta give credit who credit's due. So Francis Blisson was the first one, the British physician. Then in the early 1900s, there were all these three very super important figures. But the main one I would say is Adolf Windaus. He's a German doctor. Actually, he went to medical school. He became a doctor, but then he switched. I think he didn't like too much to be a physician, so he was more interested in research, and so he switched from medical school to chemistry. So he became a chemist. Excuse me, guys. I don't know what the heck's wrong with my throat today. So anyway, so Adolf Windaus, who was born in Germany in the late 1800s, he became a chemist. He switched from medical school from medical doctor to chemist. So he started studying the sterols, which are steroids, and he's the main and most important figure when it comes to findings about cholesterol and sterols. And the first findings about vitamin D, because he's the one that discovered and studied sterols. So he, in the early 1800s, him and a scientist called, his last name is Hess, and another one was Rosenberg or Rumberg. I'm sorry. I had the notes, and these names are like, they're a little bit confusing. But anyway, doctor, he had a PhD in chemistry. So all these chemists, these scientists, Dr. Hess and Dr. Rumberg, I think. I probably have to go back and edit and correct that. They worked in conjunction with Dr. Windaus, but Dr. Windaus was the main culprit and the one that actually discovered the chemical structure, the organic chemical structure of sterols and vitamin D, or the precursor of vitamin D, which is 7-dehydrocalciferol. Oh, calciferol, dehydrocalciferol. Oh my god. And I study this thing like in depth, I think, because I'm so excited talking about it. I get confused with cholesterol and calciferol. So I'm gonna go back and edit and correct that. But anyway, so this chemist, German chemist, was the founder and the one that discovered the whole molecule and organic chemical structure of the precursor vitamin D. So anyway, this guy, Adolf, yeah, not a really good name, but that was his name. He was German. I think that's a very common German name. Excuse me. So yeah, he won the Nobel Prize of Chemistry in 1928 for the findings and his work on sterols and vitamin D and the correlation of sterols and vitamins. So he was actually the first legit scientist and the legit work that talked about the correlation between sterols and vitamins. That's why he gets most of the he gets most of the appreciation, because he's the one that worked hard on that and focused mainly on the findings in detail about correlation of vitamin D, or the precursor vitamin D, and sterols and cholesterol. So he was another one that the work, his contribution about cholesterol and sterols is immense. It's amazing. So we owe this guy a big time ovation. Bravo, Dr. Windaus. And well, hence he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Chemistry, or Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1928. So well done, Dr. Windaus. So anyway, that was pretty cool to do some research and find out about the origins of things. I'm a very curious person. I'm a super nerd, and I love doing research and learning. So it takes time. You have to. I read tons of legitimate scientific articles and scientific studies, like scientific literature. So I did my research, and all the information that I'm giving you right now is actually a quite summarized and concise information. The info that I learned and that I acquired and I gathered, it's a lot. The details, it goes into crazy details. So I'm like, okay, people don't need to know, you guys don't need to know this super, super tiny details. The important things that I'm telling you guys, the origins, what's vitamin D, why it was whole vitamin D, who discovered it, and its functions. So now you know who discovered it, who worked on it, and everything else. I want to talk about. I need to breathe. I need to take a break. I want to talk about its functions. Why vitamin D is so important in our bodies for our health, and how it works, how it functions in our system. So, also I want to talk about there are different types of vitamin D. I think I already talked about that. So I said, vitamin D2, it's found in wild mushrooms. So that's why eating mushrooms, edible mushrooms are really good for you because they're high in vitamin D. Vitamin D2, ergo calciferol. And then you have vitamin D3, which comes from animal fat. Animal fat. So like fish oil, fatty fish, liver, egg yolks, and our skin. Our skin produces vitamin D3 when it's activated through sunlight. So why it's so important? Why vitamin D is so important? So vitamin D, the function of vitamin D regulates the metabolism and the absorption of calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium. So vitamin D not only, like I said, regulates these super important minerals, but vitamin D also contributes. It's important for the absorption of these vital minerals. So calcium. So of course, without vitamin D, that's why kids developed rickets, which is a bone disease. Your bones become super weak, super soft. They don't form well. So the children that are vitamin deficient, they have besides having tons of health issues, their bones are all deformed. They don't grow up properly because they didn't have enough vitamin D. And vitamin D, when you have adequate amounts, whether it's through food or sunlight, then it produces the super healthy bone structure. So the vitamin D is the culprit of skeletal homeostasis. So that's why vitamin D is so important. And not only in children. That's why it's so important for children to make sure that they have enough vitamin D for bone formation. But not only that, it also affects older people, and it can cause osteomalacia or osteoporosis. So yeah, if you're deficient in vitamin D, your bones get soft, they weaken, and then you start having all these bone fractures and deformities. And not only your bones, but vitamin D, it's the culprit of many, many functions in our body. That's why vitamin D is a hormone, it's a modulator hormone. It's a hormone that modulates and intervenes in many processes in the body. So besides, regulating the metabolism and absorption of calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, it modulates our immune system, and it also it modulates or intervenes with it prevents a lot of autoimmune diseases, tons of upper respiratory issues, specifically tuberculosis. It has to do with diabetes, it has to do with skin problems, hair problems. Vitamin D is extremely, extremely important. Without vitamin D, we're pretty much screwed. So why am I talking about the importance of vitamin D right now? Especially we're going through a pandemic, and there are many studies recent studies that have shown that 80% of patients that were infected with the virus, with the coronavirus, they found out that 80% of those were extremely deficient on vitamin D. And the patients that did the worst, they got sicker, or the patients they were not, the patients that did not make it, they did blood work and stuff like that, and they measured the vitamin D levels in their serum, in their blood serum, and they found out that they were extremely deficient. And the people that recovered completely and didn't get as sick, actually they had adequate to optimal levels of vitamin D. So that's why I wanted to talk about vitamin D, because we're going through a pandemic right now, and a lot of people are now well informed about nutrition, supplementation, vitamins, and the doctors. I think it has to do how the medical field and medical schools are indoctrinated by certain things, specifically big pharma, and they only talk about chemicals and medications and procedures, but they don't talk about, they're not taught in depth about nutrition, supplementation, and how important it is to teach people how to eat properly, eat healthy, nutritious food, how to take care of their bodies so they can prevent diseases and illnesses in the near future or in the future. So I want to talk about that because I wanted to inform you guys, I wanted to educate you about the importance, the origin and everything about vitamin D, but also about the education and
Okie dokie. So now that I gave you guys a historical background about vitamin D, its origins, why it's called vitamin D, who discovered it, and all that stuff, and kind of the general function of vitamin D in our bodies and our systems. Now I want to talk about in a more detailed, specific manner about why vitamin D is so important for our health and our immune system. So vitamin D, or the active form vitamin D3, which is called calciferol, that vitamin works, which is a hormone, as I explained previously. It works as an immunomodulator. So vitamin D is a modulating hormone. So it works as a it works as an immunomodulator. So how that works? So vitamin D targets our immune system. Vitamin D is the culprit, is responsible of our immune system homeostasis and the health of our immune system. So an adequate amount of vitamin D in our bodies makes sure that our bodies and our cells and our immune system produce enough amounts, like adequate amounts or optimal amounts of immune cells and quality, healthy amounts of immune cells and healthy, immune cells. Also, vitamin D targets immune cells such as monocytes, macrophages, dendritic cells, T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, which are called or are known as T cells, and B cells, which are the main, immunocells that we hear about all the time, from our doctors. If you have an infection, you get blood work, and it comes back with high amounts or high numbers of these immunocells. that tells your doctor that your body is fighting an infection, so you have an infection. So proper and adequate or optimal levels of vitamin D helps to help to not only regulate, but also to the healthy production of health, of immunohealth, immunocells, and the adequate production of enough of those immunocells and fighting cells. So all these cells, that work uh, to protect us from, infections and viruses and germs and all kinds of pathogens, um, are modulated and regulated and stimulated and synthesized by vitamin D, among other minerals and vitamins. Vitamin C and zinc and other minerals and vitamins play a huge role in our immune system. But vitamin D is like um, the main one, the most important one. So what happens when vitamin D, these cells, all these immune cells, have the capacity of expressing vitamin D enzymes, and these enzymes activate the inactive forms of vitamin D, such as 7-dehydrocholesterol, which is the inactive form of vitamin D, and then these enzymes that are expressed by these immune cells activate the local inactive vitamin D, and then the inactive vitamin D becomes an active form of vitamin D3, which is known as cholecalciferol. So all this activation and all these processes have to do with the maintenance and the production and the synthesis and the maintenance of a healthy immune system. So these vitamin D, these processes of how vitamin D works, it helps us to have and maintain a very healthy immune system. So they're responsible, vitamin D is responsible for the homeostasis, the homeostasis of our immune system, for our proper function and a healthy immune system. So that's why I wanted to talk about vitamin D, because I want you guys to know, we're going through this mess right now with the pandemic and the viruses, and that's why vitamin D is so important. That's why you guys need to, if you cannot get adequate sunlight, all you need to do is you need 20, depend on your skin color. If you have lighter skin, you don't need to be out in the sun. And when I say out in the sun, you don't necessarily have to be direct under the sun, like burn yourself. Just being outside, like sitting in your backyard, your porch, your balcony, a park. I know nowadays it's really hard to be outside. I mean, you can wear double mask, wear a mask so you're outside safely. Just receiving anything from 15 to 20 minutes if you are light skin. If you have light skin, you don't need more than 20 minutes. So between 15 and 20 minutes a day of sunlight, it makes it activates your inactive vitamin D3, which is in your skin, which is it's called 7-dehydrocholesterol, is the inactive form of vitamin D. Our skin cells have that. They're found in the epidermis of our skin. So that precursor, that inactive form of vitamin D, it's found in our skin, the epidermis, like I said. And when we get hit with the sunlight, with UV rays, I can't speak. Blah, blah. When we get hit with UV rays and sunlight, which is sunlight, that activates that 7-dehydrocholesterol into cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D3. And then that's all we need. But I know a lot of people live in, some people live in like really cold areas, which is where it's dark most of the time, and When it's that cold, you don't want to go outside, at all. So those are the times and the seasons where people tend to, that's why people tend to get sicker uh, during the or throughout the winter, because we don't receive as much sunlight and we don't go outside as much because it's so cold, snowing, whatever the case may be. Or even people that work hard, like they work in like office settings and they don't go out as much, they don't receive enough sunlight, so they tend to develop vitamin D deficiencies. So if you're the type of person that you cannot get any sunlight because you live in a very cold place, or in a place like Scandinavian countries, where it's like half of the year it's like dark and half of the year it's completely, there's light, like almost, I would say like 20 hours, close to 24 hours, like 20 hours a day. I think there's like a lot of light sunlight, and they get like a little darkness for like a few hours, but most, like 6 months out of the year, it's either sunlight or complete darkness. So those people that live, or people live in the UK, which is gray all the time, there's not a lot of sun outside, the sun is limited only in the summertime, and it's rainy. So if you live in a climate where it's, dark, cold, gray, you don't get a lot of sunlight, then you have to take vitamin D3 and 2, but mainly 3 is the most important. Vitamin D3 supplements, which are very cheap, very inexpensive. You can find them anywhere, at any supermarket, any pharmacy, any health store, anywhere. You can buy them online. You don't have to go. Nowadays, you can buy everything online, so you don't have to worry about that. So vitamin D is very inexpensive. It's easy to afford and find. So yeah, if you have that problem that you cannot go outside, to get sun, because you live in a super cold country, or you're too busy, you work in an office setting, or whatever the case may be, make sure you supplement with enough vitamin D. So the regular amount that they recommend is anything between 4 and 5,000 international units, which is the units that vitamin D is measured. So IUs, if you see in the bottle when you buy, it says IUs. So that means international units. So 4 to 5,000 a day is the perfect optimal amount of vitamin D to take. If you are unable to get sunlight, and when you take your vitamin D, remember to take it with fats, with foods that are foods that have high content of fat. So you can take it with, if you had like salmon or like a fatty fish, or eggs, egg yolk, because the eggs have the egg yolk. The egg yolk is fatty. It has a lot of fatty acids. It's a fatty part of the egg. So you want to make sure when you take vitamin D, do not take it with milk or any foods that are high in calcium, because calcium blocks the absorption. I know, it's crazy. It's vitamin D helps to absorb. Vitamin D helps to regulate and to absorb calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium. But if you take vitamin D supplements with foods that are high in calcium, then the calcium blocks the absorption of vitamin D. So you have to make sure that you take your vitamin D. If you take anything like anything or medications that have like calcium base, like Tums, or things for like medication for heartburn and acid reflux, they have calcium in it. Make sure you wait at least 2 to 3 hours before or after taking that medication or supplement, or after you eat whatever food or supplement or medication that has calcium in it. Wait between 2 to 3 hours before taking your vitamin D. So make sure you take your vitamin D with food, with fatty food. And I say fatty food like healthy fats. I'm not talking about like greasy, gross junk food. I'm talking about, normal, healthy, fatty foods. Like, a meal that has fish, or if you're eating chicken or beef, or eggs. I preferably, if you're eating eggs, eggs or fish is probably the best way to take your vitamin D. And wait 2 to 3 hours. If you have to take anything that has calcium in it, wait 2 to 3 hours. So to make sure your body absorbs the vitamin D properly, and vice versa. So, okay, guys. So now you know why vitamin D is so important. Vitamin D, excuse me. Sorry. My God, I'm like, my voice is all like crackling. My throat is freaking dry. I like forgot the name of certain things. I got confused with the names. Like I'm drinking water. I'm burping. Like what the hell? Sorry. Excuse me. Oops. Anyway, I guess this is what make my videos real and organic and natural. You know, I don't try to make everything perfect and super scripted, and you know, I do research and I read a lot and I study, but I want my videos to feel natural and organic and flowy. I hate those videos that are highly edited and highly scripted, like people almost sound like a robot, and you can tell they're reading the shit, and I'm like, nah. Like, yeah, I want to be clear. I want to sound professional. I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but at the same time, I want to be myself. You know, I want to be real because I like to keep my shit real. That's who I am. So, anyway, guys, so we talk about what's vitamin D, its origins, um, who discovered it, uh, its function, and how to take it. And yeah, so now you know, take your buy vitamin D3. If you're gonna buy supplement, vitamin D3, which is cholecalciferol. Then you have vitamin D2, which is ergocalciferol. You can find in wild mushrooms or fortified meals. I mean, you can, if you're sensitive to vitamin D3, I guess you can try that. You can buy, you know, they sell capsules with vitamin D2 made a extracted out of wild mushrooms and stuff. But either or, the best type is the vitamin D3. That's the one that plays the main role, not only in our bone health, in immunity health, but also it helps you to prevent autoimmune disorders, upper respiratory issues. It helps you with diabetes to regulate and even improve diabetes. It helps to prevent so many diseases and illnesses and issues. So that's why I'm so focused and so passionate about vitamins and supplements, because I know how important they are for our health, and they're the best way to prevent illnesses and diseases, and the best way to protect ourselves and to have healthy, happy, uh, long lives. So now you know about vitamin D and its importance, its functions, and everything. So I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend and a wonderful holiday. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. I appreciate it to the max. I know it's really hard to stay engaged in such long videos, but some videos required more time than others because there's a lot of information, a lot of explanation, a lot of historical and educational background. So it's impossible for me just to make it super short. I mean, I guess I could make it sound like super fast and super robotic, like I'm just like literally naming just the title of each thing, but then I'm not giving you like a deep, like a summarized yet deep explanation and understanding about the subject. So now that's why I like to give to, sometimes I make shorter videos than others, but this is why I like to, you know, elaborate and explain everything, so you guys know everything that you need to know, so you can take very good care of yourself. So anyway, thank you guys. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. Um, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Um, I've been gaining new subscribers. A lot of people are supporting my dream, my project. This is one of my dreams. I have many dreams, but this is one of my dreams. You know, to develop a very fun yet functional and educational channel where I can share my bits of knowledge and wisdom and experiences, and so that way I can help whoever needs help. So, and if I can help a little bit, to me that means the world. That's a lot. That's a big deal to me. So anyway, I know I've been saying thank you, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to, thank you for your support, and yeah. So thank you for your time and your attention. That's very precious to me. And remember, practice gratitude. Practice gratitude. It will help you with perspective, with self-love, self-peace, inner peace. And remember that each day that you wake up in the morning is a new opportunity for a fresh start, for a new life, for a beautiful day. So stay strong and stay metal. Metal! Peace, guys. Take care. Okay? Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Ciao.